Bria, Gadd, welcome to the Fields Well podcast.
Thank you, Lauren. I am so excited to be here and I just love your podcast. I'm really, really grateful to
Oh,
have this time with you.
thank you. The feeling is mutual. You are known as the Period Whisperer, which is also the title of your top 1% podcast, which I love. Such a catchy title. How did this name come to be?
Yeah, probably my favorite story for sure. I'll try to keep it, shortened for you, but I have been in the wellness industry, first as a nutrition coach and personal trainer since my late 20s. I'm almost 44 now. When I was like raising babies
You
and,
look so young. I listened to other shows you had been on where you had revealed your age, but initially I thought you were much younger. So you look incredible.
oh, thank you. It's my
Yes.
hormones. No,
Literally, it is.
Thank you so much. And, you go through life. I mean, it's such a busy time. I think most women understand in your like late 20s, your 30s, like raising kids, trying to build a career, doing all the things. And I remember thinking, I don't have everything figured out, but at least I have my nutrition and fitness figured out. And
Yes.
then around the age of 35, I started to notice this shift in my clients, and they just weren't getting the
Mm.
same results. Just didn't have the same like zhuzh or zest for life. They were more tired. They just like, it's like their periods, their PMS was extending. They weren't getting, the same results from their fitness. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking, I don't understand what's happening. And at 37, it started happening to me.
Ah,
Yeah,
wow.
it was
Yeah.
and it began, it certainly began, I think, as like some funky changes in my period, definitely some digestive issues, which were weird for me. I had anxiety for the first time in my life. Had this like weird little twitch in my eye, which I think I always like to bring up because it's such a random.
I'm like,
Uh,
wait, have I had that?
yeah, yeah,
Perhaps.
yeah. And I mean, I had some I call it undeserved weight gain, which a lot of women
Okay.
understand in this age where you change nothing, but all of a sudden, like your leggings are getting too tight.
Yeah.
And, my initial answer was like, okay, I need to double down, right? I like set my alarm earlier. I worked out harder. I like cut
Yeah.
down on my calories, got really anal about it. And like, I thought it was going to get better and it just got worse. And the real kicker for me was I stopped sleeping well. I started waking up
Mm.
in the middle of the night, sometime between 2 and 4 a.m., like clockwork in a sweat.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was where I was like, I mean, you'd think with the changes in my period, I would go talk to a healthcare practitioner, but
Right.
I waited until I was so uncomfortable, as most of us do. And I went off to my healthcare practitioner, and she
Mhm.
was wonderful. She asked all the questions and did all the blood work. And she was like, Bria, you're the picture of health. And I left there in tears because I
Yeah.
was like, I'm really glad I don't have any of the awful things that like come up when you Google night sweats.
Right.
But
Oh my gosh,
um,
going down that rabbit hole.
no,
Don't.
I like
Speak to a
fired
specialist. Yeah.
up. Don't do it. But I remember thinking like, I'm 37. If this is
Mhm.
like the picture of health, like it's not going to get
Right.
better after this. So and that was what really pivoted my career
Mhm.
in terms of really understanding the female body and
Mhm.
what was going on. Because to kind of answer your one question around, the title of the Period Whisperer, what I realized in like my new learning and education and the healing of my own body was I had missed a lot of messages from my body,
Mm.
and I'd missed all the whispers until they were
Yeah.
screams. So
Wow.
the title of it really is around that
Yeah.
piece of
Yeah.
listening to what our body says to us so that we can feel the best without as much help.
Totally. And I think so many of us are having these whispers, right? And we're not listening to them because we don't know we should be, or we don't know what to tune into.
Totally. It's like a language that nobody taught us, and not,
Right.
not a lot of people speak. It's like Latin.
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that
It's
language.
almost something that women are taught like not to speak about. Like, oh, it's just this is what it means to be a woman or have a period. But it's like, wait, maybe I don't have to feel this way or don't have to experience these symptoms to this extent. Or maybe
Mhm.
there's like a root cause that I need to dive deeper into.
Yeah, I think you're right. We were completely told like this just is what it is. There's not a language for you to learn. And I think this generation of women are starting to be like, wait a second. this isn't
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
for me, and
Yeah.
speaking out more, which is
Mm-hmm.
beautiful,
Because we're
and
all
learning.
now into like optimization and feeling our best.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you focus on, and we're going to get into it, is this perimenopause.
Mm-hmm.
Many people don't know what that is. I found out about it when I was at a TEDx event in San Diego, where a woman, did I have her name here? She spoke on how this perimenopause period where she had to stop working. It disrupted so many relationships. And she's like, no one is talking about this
Mm-hmm.
period, this phase before menopause. Can you talk to us a little bit more about perimenopause, what it is, and your experience there?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is really one of my
Mhm.
great loves, what perimenopause is. I mean, I think the easy way to think about it is that ultimately it's the beginning of the retirement of our ovaries. It culminates in menopause when we've gone a full year without a period. That's like a
Mhm.
diagnosable thing. But perimenopause is just a reverse puberty transition where, and I really think of it as like if anyone here has listening has worked in an office or had colleagues, and someone who has a really big, one of your big important colleagues just decides they're going to start to retire,
Yeah.
then that transition puts a lot of stress on everyone else in the office for a little
Hmm.
while, especially if no one else is coming to fill in, right? Which is
Right.
essentially what's happening. So, in terms of understanding what it means for the body, I think we all recognize that transition in life, whether you're moving, whether you're
Hmm.
changing jobs, whether you're having babies, getting married, getting divorced, adds more workload to
Hmm.
life. It's more stress. And so
Yeah.
this transition of the ovaries retiring, which begins for all women in our mid 30s, is an added workload to the body.
Hmm.
And the state of the body and how much energy supply it has to meet the current demand is really going to determine how we feel and how we navigate this transition,
Yeah.
whether it's uncomfortable or whether it's just like, 80/20, not so bad.
Yeah. And it's something that really isn't talked about very much. Like
Mhm.
you definitely hear about menopause. Like that's a
Yeah.
big moment. But to understand there's this huge transition that is not just like a 1 or 2 year period, but can be up to like a 15-year almost transition. Like you explained you were 37 when this started happening.
Yeah. And I think what I want really women to really understand is that so the transition began, of course, for me as for all women, it sort of
Hmm.
begins around that time, but it was exacerbated so much by the fact that I was in what I like to call health debt, where I was so
Mm.
significantly redlining the
Yeah.
energy supply and the energy
Yeah.
demand in my body that I could blame my hormones and
Uh-huh.
say like, "Oh, it's their fault." But ultimately, they were just the little chemical messengers like screaming at me to say like, "Hello, there's bigger problems here. If we
Yeah.
fix these, we won't cause so much trouble."
Right. And you're trying to override it.
Yeah.
Like, right, like work out harder, eat less or better. Like what is the right approach there? Like what are they trying to tell you?
Yeah. For most of us, it's do less and slow down, of course.
Hard. Hard to
And
do.
isn't it so funny where all of us out there as women are like, fine, tell me what 3 hour intense workaut program every day I need to
Hmm.
do and how little I need to eat. But like,
Yep.
gosh, ask me to take an hour and just chill on the couch. And it's
Yeah.
painstakingly hard for us.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately, I think that's one of the biggest things is I think perimenopause is really a gift that comes
Hmm.
in to highlight the systems and functions in our body that
Hmm.
maybe aren't working optimally so
Hmm.
that we address them now in our 30s, 40s, and 50s
Hmm.
so we can live the next 3, 4 decades feeling fab, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think there's like data women should start tracking so they could understand when this is happening? Did
Mhm.
your practitioner verbatim say like this is just you entering perimenopause, or upon further research did you kind of uncover that for yourself?
Yeah, no, she said,
You're
you're
fine.
fine. You're just getting a bit older. Like that was what was, you know.
You're just aging.
Or maybe it's in your head a little. Like, I mean, she meant it
Yeah.
lovingly. It was like, life gets hard in your 40, like it is, you're getting
Right.
close, you're almost 40, and she was really wonderful about it. I didn't feel dismissed, but it was a bit that way.
Yeah.
But it was in my research that I started to understand why I felt like I was juggling the balls fine in life. And
Hmm.
all of a sudden they started dropping because someone threw
Mm.
another ball in the mix. Like this
Yeah.
was perimenopause.
Okay.
So that's where I think I learned about what it was and
Yeah.
trying to look at it not as a villain, but as the
Hmm.
opportunity where I was forced to slow down and
Yeah.
take stock of what was really going on in my body, mind, and soul at that
Yeah.
time.
And prior to this, you were already coaching were you coaching on fitness
Mhm.
and helping with nutrition
Yeah,
already? Okay.
yeah,
And
fitness and nutrition. Hmm.
and did you start to focus more specifically on perimenopause as you went through it?
Yes,
Okay.
100%. Yeah. And I completely changed my strat. I feel like I have
Wow.
had to, on my podcast, I have like had to apologize to all the women who I
Yeah.
think I caught along with me for
Oh,
so
wow.
long to like hustle harder and push through because I was
Hmm.
wrong.
Yeah.
I was just, youth
Wow.
is very forgiving that way.
Right.
And I don't actually think we were meant to treat our bodies that way all that time. But again, no one taught us the language.
Yeah.
So, live and learn.
So what I'd love for us to get into are like some of the hormonal changes to like
Mm,
geek out behind the science behind it that are going on at that period in time and some
yeah.
of the best approaches you've found.
Yeah, definitely. So when typically, like I think in a healthy, solid foundation body, when this transition begins, what we see is first is progesterone start to decline. And progesterone is really our kind of calming hormone, as you know, like we need it, of course, for ovulation and for pregnancy. But in terms of how it makes us feel, we need it, to, I think, be calm in general and not have so much anxiety and to sleep well.
Yeah.
And then we start to see estrogen get a bit erratic, and this is where I think we can expect sometimes some little bit more anxiety, some hot flashes, things like that. But where I think things get really problematic is that when the ovaries retire, the staff left are the adrenals. That's who's left, right? Running whatever's left of the sex hormone production in the body.
Yeah.
And if they're already taxed, more often than not, what I see on labs with my clients is that the sex hormones could be fine. It's just that the adrenal hormones are tanked right now. So when like 25% of our estrogen and testosterone is being made in the ovaries and 25% in the adrenals, if
Hmm.
the adrenals are tapped out, then we're dealing with like issues there and not in our ovaries yet, especially for
Yeah.
those of us at like 37, like I was, or
Hmm.
women under 48. We're like, it's a
Hmm.
little early still.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Have, sorry.
those are the big ones, I would say, like the big hormonal shifts to start.
Yeah. And what
Mhm.
approaches did you find that helped you navigate them
Yeah.
best?
So I think I have in my mind, I have a really clear system of how, because I think systems really help me in a very busy
Mhm.
life. I think is what to begin to unwind this
Yeah.
mess that it might feel like we're in, or learn the
Yeah.
language maybe of the body a little bit better.
Mhm.
So when I think about the body as like, okay, it's not just that I'm in perimenopause, it's that I'm in health debt. That's where a lot of these symptoms come from.
Yeah.
I think of this like, okay, if we want to come back from debt, what is the best approach? And step one, I think
Mhm.
of any financial debt is to let's go through our credit cards and make sure we are not wasting money on a whole bunch of subscriptions we're not
Yeah.
using, right? Like, let's stop doing the things that are wasting our energy that
Yeah.
we're not benefiting from.
Mhm.
And that really looks like taking stock of kind of our four key health pillars, which is sleep. So making
Mhm.
sure we're having really consistent bedtime and wake routines and that we're
Yeah.
not sitting around doom scrolling on our phone or watching like really intense cortisol driving shows the hour before we go to bed. That looks like,
That
are
happened to me last week.
you kidding?
Literally, okay, I was watching this show and no hate to this show. It's a great show. It's called Sirens on
Oh, I
Netflix.
watched it.
Okay, I watched the first episode. I was so excited to watch the second. Like it was like a week later I was going to watch the second and I put it on right before bed. I
Uh-huh.
watched that and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so dark.
Yeah.
I could not fall asleep." And I was like, "I can't do that again
Yeah.
before bed."
It's funny, Lauren, is you can even see this on like a cortisol test or like a Dutch panel, right? You can see that rise in cortisol. I need it on my own. I'm like, darn it. No more
Yeah,
zombie shows at night. Yeah.
totally. The nighttime routine is so important.
It just is. We
Yeah,
do it for our children, and just because we're adults doesn't mean our bodies don't need it. It needs the same.
totally. Like say that your day starts the night before with your
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. And I get that these are like pretty boring, unsexy things. But the thing I'm always amazed at as a podcaster, talking to other podcasters who are in the health space,
Hmm.
a lot of these things are all the same that we say. Like, can't avoid these
Right.
things.
The
These are just
basics. And
foundational
people want
pieces.
like the hack, but it's like
Yeah.
get your 8, 9 hours of sleep, eat nutritious meals, move your
Yeah.
body every day.
Yeah. You got
Yeah.
it. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are little tweaks and hacks, but they don't
Hmm.
work if the foundations aren't there. Like, they're only going to work if the foundations are there.
Are there hormone specific like routines or nutrition plans that you recommend?
I mean, I
Like
think when it
hormone
comes
supportive? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, nutritionally, I think the key things number one, when it comes to nutrition is regulating blood sugar. So we want to
Hmm.
make sure that we're not doing a lot of fasting, except maybe an overnight fast as we would, right? Like we're eating within two
Yeah.
hours of waking. We're eating enough in that meal to keep us full and
Hmm.
satisfied until 4 to 5 hours later when we have our next meal. And same thing for dinner. So we're having 3 meals and that's it, or 3 meals and a snack if we need to, depending on our life. And we're eating enough in those meals. And that, I think, one supports, the adrenal hormones a lot, and certainly our nutrition hormones, like our hunger hormones and our blood sugar, which will then support our sex hormones.
Hmm.
Um, of course, making sure you're getting enough protein, you're getting enough fiber, you're getting enough fats, and that you are getting enough carbohydrates. Like I see as well, another thing I see on labs, I'm sure you're familiar with this, is like how many bodies have put on the metabolic brakes
Hmm.
because there hasn't been enough food.
Yeah. 100%.
It's
100%. I love my pasta, but they're
yeah,
definitely something I will never take out of my diet, even though, it's not an everyday thing. I love
yeah.
the carbs.
It's so important in
Yeah.
how well we feel. So we need all of the macronutrients to support
Hmm.
our hormones. So the consistency of when we eat, the macronutrients. But I think, like lots of cruciferous green leafy vegetables, like really leaning on those vegetables can be really helpful for the
Yeah.
detoxification of our hormones. So broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, like bring those into your life.
Hmm.
Seed cycling can be a really powerful thing. I don't know if you've already talked about that before, but
I
just
haven't.
okay. So cycling, and I mean, if your period is irregular, the
Hmm.
concept behind seed cycling is that we spend half the month in a certain part of our cycle where we are eating certain seeds that promote the detoxification of that hormone, so of our estrogen. So we're looking to flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. Is that right? No, flax seeds. Yes, flax and pumpkin. And then as we transfer over into another phase, we're having sesame and sunflower seeds, which really help promote our progesterone. So it just naturally promotes the sex
Yeah.
hormone balance in our
Yeah.
body. And that can be a really simple way to actually have more regular periods, have better
Wow.
PMS,
Seed
calm
cycling. I actually
seeds.
haven't heard a lot about that. So interesting. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, for me, I think this whole like intermittent fasting thing, I'm like, I don't
Mm.
know. I love when I wake up and have a high protein breakfast, like avocado with eggs.
Oh yeah. I
Hmm.
will not miss breakfast. It is
What
like I
is
have no.
what does your breakfast look like?
Probably most days in the week, I'm always having eggs.
Okay.
And Greek yogurt, I'm a big
Hmm.
fan of. Like, I'm really trying to get 30 grams of protein in my
Okay.
breakfast for sure. So, some of my really favorite quick breakfast is going to be like 2 eggs fried in butter,
Yeah.
salt and pepper,
Love it.
and like a good like 3/4 of a cup to a cup of Greek yogurt with some berries and real maple syrup or honey and my seeds. So, that's
What
like my quick go to.
what butter do you use?
I love the
Me
Kerrygold brand.
too. Me too. It's where it's at. I love that Kerrygold butter. And I actually heard something recently and it was like if you feel the need to snack, it's because you aren't getting enough nutrition from your actual meals.
100%. It is.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. There are some times where we want an energy supply and really we use food, but that's not the energy we need. We probably just
Okay.
need a nap or we
Okay.
need joy or
Yeah.
pleasure or
Yeah.
fun, you
Mhm.
know? But I do think a lot of the times, like if you're not physically
Mhm.
satisfied with your
Uh-huh.
food, absolutely. You're just
Mhm.
not eating enough or enough of the right fuel mixture for you.
Yeah. And when you talk about joy and fun, one of the examples you gave in a previous episode I've heard of yours was was sex and play with your partner.
Yeah, for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that aspect of us, like, it can be challenging because for women, we need energy in order, I think, to have the space to be turned on at times.
Hmm.
But, and in order to have that energy, we have to pull back in other areas. But
Yeah.
that rupturing of like an orgasm or even just like playing,
Mm.
with someone or yourself, if that's where you're at,
Yeah.
it's an important, it's a huge release and a real
Yeah.
big supporter of our hormones, sex hormones, adrenal hormones, all of them. So, and it can
Totally.
tell us a lot. Like if we can't get there,
Mhm.
then we probably need to, it's another message from our body that
Mhm.
something's not right.
Yeah. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
So as the period whisperer, I have to get into for our listeners who aren't quite yet at perimenopause,
Mhm.
those who are just trying to understand their cycle better. I've heard you talk about these 4 different stages of our period. Do you mind
Yeah.
getting into those and like how we can best treat ourselves during that period of time, whether in regard to like what we're eating, how active we are, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. I love this. Um, I think one of the best ways, I'm a big metaphor person. One of the best ways I heard it explained is really thinking of each phase of our cycle like a season, right? One of the 4 seasons. So if, ultimately when we track a period, the day one is your actual bleed. But let's, for the sake of going through the seasons, let's start with springtime.
Okay.
And springtime is really in your cycle is your follicular phase. This is
Mhm.
when your period has ended. It's when, I really think of like little new tulips shooting out, like your estrogen is just starting to rise and you're like, oh, I feel so good.
Yeah.
And our body, like our metabolism actually has settled down. Cortisol is usually lower in the body. So we can really um, handle more like more demand on our body at that point because we have a lower natural demand. So we can push
Okay.
ourselves harder in our workouts. We can eat a little less during that time. Like if you
Hmm.
are going to do any type of fasting, that would be the window that we want to look to fasting. But really, I think of it like think about spring foods, like
Yeah.
those fresh greens and I mean and light proteins and things like that during that time.
Okay.
And then the next phase is our ovulatory phase. And this is the one phase where we can actually get pregnant in. So,
Uh-huh.
and it's really like summer. This is the time when we, are more outgoing and like all of the hormones come to the party. So if your
Hmm.
hormones are balanced, usually you feel like a lot more alive, really,
Hmm.
willing to get out more, willing to try new things. And I think of the same thing with our nutrition. Like we can almost try new foods. We can again push ourselves a little harder and try new things in the gym.
Yeah.
We can in life we can be more explorative with our sexual partners. We can do sales calls or speak on stages. Like those are more outgoing times for us. And
Okay.
nutritionally, yeah, I think about summer salads and summer
Yeah.
veg and again the same kind of lean but like hearty proteins.
Hmm.
And then we move into our luteal phase, it's called, which is, the what I think a lot of us think of as our PMS window.
Yeah.
But I think of this as the fall, right? It's sort of like,
Okay.
okay, we're starting to wind things down a little bit in this season.
Yeah.
But our body at that time, this is when estrogen drops out and progesterone really starts to decline.
Okay.
And we want to keep that progesterone up as long as we
Yeah.
can. So if we want to feel satiated, then we want to make sure we are eating like more root vegetables. Think about a
Okay.
fall harvest. So we
Yeah.
need more complex carbohydrates during this time. And in
Hmm.
fact, I think a lot of our cravings and crankiness that we are so
Yeah.
familiar with in PMS would go away if we just ate more.
Mm.
We just
Yeah.
did.
I want to
Yeah.
create like a calendar map of all these different, the
Yeah.
next 30 days for my period calendar map with the seasons and the food that I should be eating because I'm sure it will like make the whole experience and make my body operate more efficiently if it's being nurtured as it is asking to be.
Exactly. It's just kind of like leaning in. And we all know this. It's like if
Yeah.
you feel like doing a little less. I know I feel a bit quieter during that time. I have
Hmm.
less bandwidth and capacity because our
Hmm.
body is either preparing to create a human life or
Yeah.
preparing to slough off and release. So our
Right.
metabolism is up higher. There's a elevated cortisol. We have more demand. So the body needs more energy during that
Uh-huh.
time. And if we don't have that energy, we're going to have cravings. We're going to get cranky. We're going to be tired. We're, going to maybe not be the nicest human beings
Yeah.
sometimes.
You know what's interesting is I find that I'm more moody like the days leading up to my period than I actually am on my period.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So that's
That's so
normal.
yeah, I
Okay.
think everyone's a little different that way, but
Yeah.
I'm the same. It's like the 3 days before it hits my
Uh-huh.
mood. And I think ultimately that's because we're having this significant decline in the
Okay.
hormones at that point. By the time
Yeah.
we have the bleed, which is like our winter, so I think
Uh-huh.
of it as like I want to hibernate in the winter, right? By the time we have this
Yeah.
bleed phase or your menstrual week,
Yeah.
um, the hormones have completely dropped out at
Mm-hmm.
that point in time. And then a day or two in, estrogen starts to rise again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think it's the discomfort of that, of everything being at the party and then the party being over, where I
Yeah.
think we get a
Yeah.
little cranky, like
Totally.
withdrawal from having so much fun with your friends. And now you're home from the girls' weekend and you're like, oh, back to reality.
Yeah. This last year has been like a whole new me because I was on the pill for such a long time and I didn't really need to be on it. A lot of it was for skin and it was on a low dose. And so I didn't have a lot of side effects. So I just stayed
Yeah.
on it. And now I'm like
Yeah.
so grateful to be off of it. But it's like I'm like experiencing a whole new version of myself with
Yeah.
these like, the mood and the period and like just like feeling in my body. And I'm like, wow, to be a woman, but like, how can I really like tap into this?
I
And I
love
had someone on the podcast recently, and she was a sexuality expert and coach. And she was talking about how each time she gets her period, she like plans it and on like does like a deep dive on day one, writes down all her thoughts, and then has a playful day, and then goes back to her thoughts. And I was like, wow, if we could celebrate the fact that we can create life and have a period and really listen into our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of being, told that it was the worst thing ever, which I think
Totally.
so, it's like, oh, it's so
Totally.
awful. And it's
Yeah.
awful because we don't know how to work with, we don't know how to speak
Mm-hmm.
that language. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that you have that perspective because
Yeah.
I think we can so easily be like, oh, like, okay, well, half the month I'm not going to have any energy. Well, it's like, well, half
Right.
the month you have 150% energy. So it's just
Yes.
maximize and
Yeah.
then minimize, like
Yeah.
maximize your rest over here and your
Mm-hmm.
productivity over here. And it can really help and give
Mm-hmm.
yourself grace and
Yeah.
compassion.
Yeah. So I'm curious for you, some go-to tools or practices you recommend for regulating our hormones and our emotions. I mean, if you have
Oh,
any extra hacks aside from, we talked about the sleep, the nutrition, the movement.
yeah. Um, yes, I think one of my favorite things that I have learned about is anything that stimulates our vagus nerve to help really bring calm to like getting us out of that sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And I learned early on in my training that if you look at your uvula, the little dangly thing in the back of your throat,
Mm-hmm.
if it's crooked, we know that the vagus nerve needs like extra care.
Wow.
But so I think it's always a fun little thing to take a look at.
Yeah.
But
Do you have like a magnifying glass?
well, I use my iPhone right now. I look in the mirror. Yeah. Yeah, I'm always like talking to my clients. But things that stimulate that, I find, are the things that make us feel alive. So, like when you're
Okay.
falling in love, that's
Yeah.
stimulating your vagus nerve, right? And it
Okay.
just gives you that aliveness. When you're singing to one of your favorite songs at the top of your lungs, like any
Mm-hmm.
type of singing is going to help. When you want to scream in the car or the shower and just like pour out and rupture that way,
Yeah.
these things sound so silly sometimes, but we're talking like a minute a day and it will just like even just talking about it, I have shivers. It'll just change your entire energy in that moment, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
just scream. Have a good
Right.
scream.
Let it out. Yeah.
Like,
Release that release.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorite things that I always think about. And I mean, of course, I'm a huge fan of having like greens and hydration first thing in
Yeah.
the morning. I find that stuff is so nourishing of my entire day. Lots of electrolytes, like put salt in your water, enjoy your food. And I think anything that mitigates stress and brings more joy. And walking. I'm just a big fan of walking.
Walking is so amazing. Any other like non-negotiables on your end that you
Oh,
think?
yeah. Yes. So I think my non-negotiables in every day to support probably, I mean, I call it my sanity, but it is going to impact your hormones. Is like when I wake up, I make some greens, like I said, and I get out for a walk. So like always getting that sunlight in the eyes first thing in the morning, but I like to just move a little bit, start your day that way. Um, and then eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So like just these basic things are very foundational for me. And I'm a big fan of hitting the mat every day. And I don't mean like for a workout, I mean even just for like a 10-minute stretch. So stretching is a big non-negotiable for me. And my brain will always say this is not productive and it's boring, but every time I do it, my body thanks me.
Yeah, I love those non-negotiables, the self-love practices. Bria, as we begin to wrap up, I'd love for you to share one belief or practice you wish every woman would start to embrace today.
That's a great question. I think sitting in stillness is very hard, but one of the most important things we can do, because if we want to learn to speak the language of our own body, we have to listen. We have to be able to hear the uncomfortable things that often come up in silence, which I think is why we avoid it. So I think that's what I recommend doing, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. Find a way to be alone and sit in silence and hear what comes up. And be more in your life and not just less on a scale.
I love that. Start to tune in and listen to your body. Yeah. Bria, thank you so much. Where can our listeners find you?
Thanks so much, Lauren. Yes, come hang out on the Period Whisperer podcast, anywhere you get your podcasts as well. If this is your area that you need to learn more about in this age, or I love to hang out on Instagram at Bria_period_whisperer.
Period Whisperer, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.